Welcome back, everyone, to Season 3, Episode 5 of the Inside the Woods podcast, a Valley News show where every week we will give an inside look at Dartmouth Big Green football as they make their way through the 2025 season. I'm your host, Mike Coughlin.
Quaker faithful coming to their feet. Game clock is ticking inside the final seconds. It goes inside 40. O'Brien readies to take the snap. It comes. He'll hit the ground. And that's going to do it here this afternoon. Quakers will come away with a 36-24 win. There's still 20 seconds on the clock, but the teams will take the field and shake hands. Ray Priori and Sammy McCorkle find themselves at midfield. A hard-earned win for the Quakers. Dartmouth miscues here today will be the tale of this one, and Penn taking advantage of those miscues.
That was the Dartmouth radio broadcast call on the waning moments of the Big Green's first loss of the season last Saturday. The Big Green went on the road and succumbed to the Penn Quakers 36-24. Falling to 2-1 on the season and 0-1 in the Ivy League. The Big Green let this one get away. In a reversal of fortunes, the Big Green got out to a fast start, and in the second quarter led by 11 points. But turnovers and special teams errors reared their ugly heads, which ended up coming back to haunt Dartmouth. Senior running back DJ Crowther was a bright spot for the Big Green on offense, like he has been throughout the season, recording 86 yards on the ground and a touchdown. On the defensive side of the ball, several players made some noise, including senior linebacker Zyion Brown, who I have the privilege of welcoming on the podcast this week. Zyion led the Big Green in tackles with 10 last Saturday. Coming off the loss, the Big Green will set their sights on a visiting Ivy League rival in the Yale Bulldogs for a homecoming date on Saturday at 1:30. Like the Big Green, the Bulldogs are coming off a loss. Theirs 31-13 to Lehigh, top 10 team in the country. Like last week, Dartmouth enters a game against an opponent it has played down to the wire in recent memory. The last 4 meetings between the Big Green and the Bulldogs have been decided by one possession, and 2 of the games have gone to overtime. Each squad has won twice in that period. As I mentioned, we'll have Zyion here for an interview, and as always, Big Green head coach Sammy McCorkle will join me to take a look back at last Saturday's loss in this Saturday's game. Now let's get to the rest of the show. Here joining me is senior linebacker Zyion Brown. Zion's 10 tackles set a career high in this past weekend's loss to Penn, and he is also number 2 on the team in tackles and sacks. Hi, Zyion. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the time.
So, first, like many of your teammates, you're in a starting role for really the first time this year. Could you tell me a bit about how you feel you've grown as a player and what you think the key has been for you to emerge as a leader of the defense?
I would say that's what the Dartmouth culture is. I mean, ever since I was a freshman, just being on the scout team and just going against the one offense has always been like a building block for us. We start them young, and then as you get older and as you over time you develop as a player and as a young man. So I just feel like just coming in here day in and day out and just working hard with my brothers honestly just got me to this point and got everybody else to where they needed to be as well. And just learning from the older guys over the years as well, them being mentors to us in the film room and on the field as well, just taught us all a lot about the game and just breaking it down.
Right, and moving, sort of towards the defense as a unit, statistically you guys sit in the top 25 for total defense in the country. But your red zone defense is, only 108th. What would you attribute that to, and how do you guys improve upon red zone defense to get, some more vital stops?
Well, I mean, it just starts as us being 11-1 on the defensive end. Each and every one of us have to do our 1/11th, and just making sure that we hold it down and do our assignments and do them well. I feel like as the time goes on, and obviously we've shown in the past we not to have the greatest red zone defense right now, but we're working towards that, and that's one of our main goals as a unit, because not to give up stops in the end zone, giving up field goals is better than the offense putting up points. But we're striving to become better each and every practice and working towards that goal.
Right, and shifting to this week's opponent, this week you play an offense in Yale that's averaging about 135 plus rush yards a game. last week Penn ran for just over 160 yards on you guys. How do you guys plan to adjust and lock down the Bulldog offense?
Really just, like I said, just doing our assignments, just making sure we're gap sound and making sure we have everything in control, doing our assignments well, not doing our own thing, but making sure that we're, whatever play we got called, just making sure we're doing that play and then just reading our keys and going ahead and making the play. Honestly, I feel like that's really not too much to it, making sure that our defensive line, they're in the right gaps, and then the linebackers and then the safeties and so forth, just making sure we're in the right spots as well and just making sure that keep everybody intact and getting everybody to the ground.
All right, and then finally, since you're a senior, we've been doing this with players we've interviewed. I'd like to ask what you've majored in at Dartmouth and what you're planning to do in the future.
Yeah, so I major in PPE, that's philosophy, politics, and economics, really government sound. And as of now, after the fall season, I'll be graduating early with more eligibility, and I will be grad transferring to another university to continue my football journey and pursuing my MBA in finance.
All right, that's great. Thank you again very much, Zyion, for joining me on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I wish you guys luck this weekend.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Like last week's show, before our interview with Sammy, we're going to take a deeper dive into Saturday's Big Green Bulldog battle. Stop me if you've heard this before. The Big Green are taking on an opponent who's coming off a loss to a top 10 ranked team in the country in Lehigh. Should sound familiar, considering the Penn Quakers, who handed the Big Green their first loss, were also coming off a loss to the Mountain Hawks. This could spell some trouble for Dartmouth, as every team except for Duquesne, and obviously, as of right now, Yale, who has lost to Lehigh, has gone on to win its next game. The Bulldogs enter Saturday ranked 88th in total offense and 47th in total defense in the country. Yale is averaging just over 321 yards per game and is allowing its opponents to gain about 360 yards per game. While the Big Green are tied for 22nd in the nation in total defense, allowing just about 324 yards per game, and boast an offense ranked 21st in total offense, amassing over 427 yards a game. On paper, it would appear that Dartmouth has the advantage. However, when you look at scoring offense and scoring defense ranks, Yale closes the gap. The Bulldogs hold opponents to fewer points than the Big Green on average and only score about a point fewer on average as well. Ultimately, the game, as most are, will probably hinge on the turnover battle, something both teams have struggled with. Each team has turned the ball over 6 times through 3 games, but the Bulldogs hold an edge over the Big Green in overall turnover margin, with Yale at 0, Dartmouth at -1. Something's going to have to give on Saturday, so let's hear from Sammy and get his take. Now joining me, as usual, is Big Green head coach Sammy McCorkle, who will look to lead his team to its first Ivy League win this season against Yale on Saturday. Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Good, Mike. Hey, all good. Thanks for having me.
So, obviously tough loss this past weekend against Penn. Again, you guys struggle at taking care of the football. I know you're probably eager to move on from the loss, but what are your thoughts on the game after having some time to reflect on it?
Oh, obviously, it's disappointing with the loss. We had our opportunities and we felt like there were times of that game that, we were being productive and doing what we need to do to put us in a situation to win that game. But obviously we had a couple, critical mistakes that occurred that, gave Penn a short field and all, those critical mistakes led to touchdowns, and you can't put yourself in those situations and expect to come out on top. But hey, it's you learn from it, and there's a lot of the thing about watching that tape and meeting with our players is a lot of that stuff was self-inflicted. A lot of that stuff we control, and those are things that we can correct going forward. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to move on from that. That game is done. Move on and prepare for a tough opponent, Yale, coming up this Saturday.
Right. And, in contrast to the first 2 games, you guys had a lead early on Saturday, but, couldn't sustain it. you've got a lot of guys in lead roles for the first time this season. And, I had Zyion Freer-Brown, senior linebacker, on the show earlier, and I asked him about this. And I wanted to ask this to you, too. Statistically, you guys sit in the top 25 for total defense in the country, but your red zone defense is 108th. What would you attribute that to, and how do you guys improve upon your red zone defense to, get some stops down near your own goal line?
Well, I think the biggest thing is we got to quit putting our defense in that situation too. I think that's what happened to us a couple times last weekend is, they had short fields. And, but I think the biggest thing is we got to buckle down there. And, we've got to make sure we're all 11 guys are being, on the same page. We got to be assignment sound when we get down in those areas. And then we got to make plays when there's opportunity to make plays. We got to make tackles when there's opportunity to make tackles. And at the same time, we got to make sure we're putting guys in the right spots so they can be successful. So it's a combination of everything. And obviously, if we've got to get that fixed, and that, obviously defensively, we've got the guys to do it, and the numbers show it. But we just got to make sure when we get down in that area, we've got to buckle down, and we've got to make sure we're hyper focused on what we need to do.
Right, and shifting to this week's opponent, you guys take on Yale. On top of that, it's going to be homecoming. Does that kind of environment, create any nerves for you guys or more enthusiasm? Just your thoughts on what the atmosphere will be like for, a homecoming game this weekend.
No, I think you go into every game feeling probably the same way. You prepare the same way, but it's exciting. It's good to have, all the alums back. It's an exciting opportunity for our players to enjoy. But we know when it comes to Saturday, it's same type of game that it is every other Saturday. But our guys, we got to prepare ourselves. There are a lot of things going on, but we're going to enjoy those things. But at the same time, we're going to continue working like we always do.
Right. And coming into the matchup with you guys, Yale has blocked 2 kicks. Special teams has, sort of been a bit of an adventure for you guys so far. As a former special teams coach yourself, what are you instilling in the squad, and how are you preparing this week, for that phase of the game?
Well, I'd say it's all about attention to detail. We got to make sure that the things that we're doing, we're focused in, locked in, assignment sound. And then we got to make plays. We just got to, at the same time, we got to make sure, we're putting the guys in the right spots to make those plays. And, but no, obviously you've got to prepare. Yale does a very good job on their special teams. They're very aggressive units. And, we've got to be very disciplined and assignment sound. And that's what our main focus is going to be, is making sure we're doing that this week to prepare ourselves.
Right. And finally, obviously winning the turnover battle has to be a priority against the Bulldogs. They also have a quarterback who likes to throw it around, but unlike Penn, he's not as mobile. What are some of the other keys to victory for you guys against Yale this Saturday?
No doubt. I think that's the most important thing. We got to take care of the football and create turnovers, and you got to win that battle. And I think also the biggest thing is we've got to control the field, and we got to allow our offense an opportunity to put them in a position that we can score. And then we don't want to put we want to make them have to work the field offensively, and we just can't give them short fields. And I think that's going to be a big part, and that takes all 3 phases working together to make sure we can do that. But I think that's those are the things you got to be able to do. They do a very good job offensively. They're very athletic defensively. So we make sure we're detail oriented and making sure we're doing what we need to do to win in all 3 phases.
All right. Thanks again very much for joining the podcast, Sammy. I appreciate it, and I wish you luck this weekend.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
And there you have it. That was Season 3, Episode 5 of the Inside the Woods podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll be back again next week to talk about Saturday's matchup with Yale and the Big Green's Week 5 road bout with Fordham. If you have a question for Sammy, email sports@v, as in valley, news.com. That's sports@vnews.com. Emails there will give you the chance to have Coach answer your question on the next podcast. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.